Hello, and welcome back to Talkin Tigers with Auburn TFC. This is the second episode, and today I'm just going to be having a little bit of a shorter episode. I wanted to talk about the Alex Golesh interview that David Pollock had on his See Ball, Get Ball podcast, as well as give my SEC quarterback power rankings. So let's get into it. This past Thursday, I believe, SEC legend David Pollock had Alex Golesh on a See Ball, Get Ball podcast. And this was a really good listen. It was just about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and there was a lot packed into it that a lot of Auburn fans couldn't be happy about to hear. And when asked about what he said to the team when he got there, Golesh said, "I was clear on the fact that we need change. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. But the main objective is to build a team." And what I'm getting from that is he's not already. He's not afraid to, touch on the hard stuff. Like, this has been a program that's been askew in the past half decade with multiple coaches, multiple coordinators at different positions, interim coaches, different quarterbacks. Just this is a program that hasn't had a whole lot of consistency lately. And to change that, you've got to make the difficult decisions. And if you don't belong in this system or you don't belong in the culture that he's trying to establish here, then might as well just get out, is pretty much what he's saying. And what I'm getting from this is in kind of a world of NIL right now, you have, pay a lot of teams, and when I say a lot of teams, you see some examples, but I'm more going to speak on during the Hugh Freeze era. You have a, pay first and then figure out how it works into the system later. Try to get all these big names, and then, obviously I'm alluding to the Freeze 5, Freeze 4, however you want to call it, with, Perry, Cam, Bryce Kane, Sam Turner, and all these guys. Well, Sam Turner and Bryce Kane are just now finally starting to get, or looking like they're going to get, a true chance. Whereas, Cam Coleman has been your guy already, and then Perry Thompson is already gone. And so that it's trying to establish an actual culture of, okay, we are going to be more intentful with how we're recruiting, more intentful with who we start, who we play, how we're going to do things, which is refreshing to see. Very refreshing to see, because, a lot of Auburn fans have just been asking for stability, asking for consistency. We would love to I put in my schedule predictions for an 8-4. That would be amazing. And even if you win a bowl game, that's 9-4. But if we have a season where we go, 7-5, and then lose our bowl game, go 7-6 or something like that, but we have proof of concept, that it was much more important to me than a big first year. Having an established culture and an established precedent in this locker room, in this program, is much more important than anything else right now. And one way to do that, one way to establish a culture, is to establish players that will hold each other accountable. He mentioned that he wants players who are going to hold each other accountable. We're talking about the coach-to-coach relationship, player-to-coach relationship, and player-to-player relationship, saying that all these things are going to be built on actual relationships, not just, you do this, or this is your position coach, just this is going to be a team of people who are together with a common goal. It's not going to be all willy-nilly like it has been lately. And that's something that I really got positive. I felt that is something that's very positive, something that's been needed, something that is really great to see at this point. And with how many times he said the word trust, you can tell that it means a lot to him, that trust is something that means a lot to Coach Golesh, and it's refreshing. You have someone like Hugh who was, like I said, just paying players, figuring out how they worked in the system later, and then how many times he said, we're so close, you kind of just feel like he's selling snake oil. And then you go back further, Harsin, he had that in that first season, there was a lot of potential there, but it just never worked out. And then Bo got injured and he left, and it just all fell apart. And to see a coach go out and actually talk about, I want to establish trust, relationships, culture first, is refreshing, is great to see. I've talked about Alex Golesh and just the establishing of the culture a lot, and I'm gonna talk a lot less about it in the future because of how much I've touched on it. But it is crucial to the future of this program, because with Alex Golesh, you're not really promised a great first year. You're hoping for one, but what you're really needing to see is constant improvement, constant growth. And another thing that he touched on was, he was asked what are some players that he wanted to shout out, or things that he's seen that have been good, and he actually shouted out right off the bat 2 defensive players, one in Elijah Melendez and the other in Champ Anthony. And he talked about Elijah Melendez as someone who is an evident leader, someone who has been given the opportunity to go into a leadership role and has run away with it. And to see that from someone who, he hasn't been one of your main guys, but he has been great and he's growing into a bigger role, is something that is needed. You don't really have a whole lot of, in this situation, you're not going to have a whole lot of veteran players that are that know the lore with everything, because of how much players move nowadays, how much players, or how many coaches we've had, how many coordinators, how many players come in and out, how many people, so many moving parts. You don't really have a whole lot of veterans, someone like Jeremiah Cobb, So, you're just trying to get people who normally wouldn't be in these leadership roles by now into those leadership roles. And that is really important, because hopefully in the next few years these people stay, and then you're going to have a veteran defense and a veteran offense that know how to work together with their team, with their coordinators, and can hopefully get the best possible product on the field. And then after that, talked about Champ Anthony as someone who has been a workhorse, someone who has been a smart player technically and working as hard as he can. And I haven't talked a whole lot about Champ Anthony, but something I'm just really excited to see what he can do. I'm really excited what to see he can do under Durkin for multiple years, and to see he did pretty decent, but I'm really excited to see what he's going to start doing now, because there is just so much upside, so much promise in this defense. And these are just 2 players that he mentioned, but there's so many players like I talked about yesterday. You have Malik Autry, you have Xavier Adkins, you have many more players that are just have that ability to go off and have that development in front of them, and are just taking it and running away with that potential development. And that's something that I'm really excited for, really happy to see. And Golesh actually said that he's not set on immediate success. Wants to come away year one, and I like how he words it here, wants to come away after year one with an identity on every side of the ball, and then build that success. In yesterday's episode, I touched on how there have been, or not, if it's either in yesterday's episode or my guest appearance on Tigers on a Roll, where I said that we've had years where the defense was all that was good, like last year, or then you're going to have years where your offense is firing on all cylinders, but your defense isn't really producing, or your passing game's really good, or your rushing game's really good, and the other's not, vice versa. Well, He wants to build an identity on every side of the ball, on offense, on defense, on in special teams with the kicking troubles that we've had lately. He wants to give an identity, wants to build an identity, wants to establish something, some kind of consistency, and that's good. He's saying all the right things, but with this kind of thing, you're going to have to see it to really, tip your cap to it. But the goals are out there. The opportunities are there. The want is there. Clearly, the want is there because he's talked about like how welcoming the Auburn family has been and how much he wants to do it justice. And then he wants to build on the success that he's trying to establish. And so, I mean, this interview, it was a great listen. It was a great look into a more, personal setting and personal conversation with Alex Golesh that Mr. Pollock had, and all respect to him, all respect to Coach Golesh, because this was just a great. There's a lot of diamonds in there, diamonds to talk about. And another thing with this interview that you see is there's not a lot of like, I'm trying to make a promise, I'm going to say this and this is going to happen. It's, the opportunity's there and I want to do it. Where like you had Hugh Freeze, it's like, we're so close, this can happen, this will happen. Like, you're kind of got too much dip on your chip, whereas Golesh is giving, these are your goals. Here are a couple players like Elijah Melendez, Champ Anthony, who are wanting to, or who have been standouts at their position and roles. And then he also talked about how Byron Brown has, Byron and Coach Golesh have a relationship already. And so to kind of bring that into the new setting, he talked about Byron Brown is doing really well at establishing relationships with his players, not with his players, but with the other players, with people like Jeremiah Cobb, Sam Turner, Bryce Kane, and then on the defensive side of the ball, he's just establishing the relationships. In all of this is just about togetherness, about not being one side, one defense, one offense, but coming together as a complete team. And that's really exciting. It's really exciting to see. And so you just look to see that he's setting out these goals. He's saying, these are my goals. This is what I'm going to do to try to fill them. And then we're going to do our best to make it happen. Not promising anything, but promising his best. And that's all we really want from someone right now, is someone to try their best, someone to love Auburn as much as Auburn loves them, to work, put their nose on the grindstone for Auburn. That's the culture that this school has had with their fans, but lately not really with their personnel or coaches. And so after that, what's this SEC really looking like? What's the SEC really going to look like? Well, I'll do my team power rankings probably tomorrow or the day after, but right now I'm just going to do my QB rankings, my quarterback rankings for the SEC. But before I do that, I'd like to take a quick moment to shout out and appreciate my sponsor, Barner Supply. Barner Supply has a great selection of hats, shirts. They have cups. They have a lot of different hats. They have a lot of great products to choose from. And personally, this hat is one of my favorite hats that I own. And it's very durable. It looks good. It's nice. It's not very heavy. And the material is nice. It's just all around a great hat, and it's very durable because you'll have a lot of hats that come from small businesses, where this is a smaller business in Birmingham, Alabama, Auburn fan run, and this is a passion project. This is someone who loves what they're doing and loves the Auburn family and wants to give back by producing some really great products. And you see some hats that are just, like ironed on labels where, these are really strong, really durable. The hats are great. And if you just want a hat that looks good for work, they have the mesh back for if you sweat, and the hats are a very good size for someone for me that has a pretty big head. Normally I always have to have my hats on the last notch. This is on the third one. I'm going to be able to wear this hat for a very long time. I already have another one coming, as well as a cup, and I'm really excited to show those off when I get them. But for right now, this hat has really treated me amazingly, and I really appreciate them sponsoring the show, sponsoring me. And go to barnersupply.com for all of your Auburn needs. And now I will be doing my SEC quarterback rankings. So to start off, with the 16 teams in this league, there are a lot of faces that that are established in their teams, but there's also ones that are new. And someone like KJ Jackson for the Arkansas Razorbacks is who I'm going to have at my number 16. In an Arkansas team navigating off of the retirement of Sam Pittman, Sam Pittman did a great job in some of his years, had the Arkansas Razorbacks ranked at some points, but it just wasn't the fit anymore. And so there's not really a whole lot of great options right now, but KJ Jackson has the experience necessary to have some kind of success and to be a starter in this league, but I don't think that obviously the Razorbacks are not poised to, really even make a bowl game or really just be a great team. But KJ Jackson, he's a solid enough quarterback to start in this conference, especially for this Arkansas Razorback team. At my 15th spot, I have George McIntyre for the Tennessee Volunteers, with a battle between two highly touted young quarterbacks and McIntyre and five-star recruit Faison Brandon. The Volunteers look poised to use this season as a chance to develop their redshirt freshman. This redshirt freshman in McIntyre is, he took a year to, develop, stand behind Joey Aguilar. Aguilar wasn't able to get another year of eligibility, so you're really having to reboot with your two young quarterbacks and have them battle it out. But I think McIntyre is the obvious choice for the job right now. I just think, with that redshirt year, learned a lot, and I think they will just give him that opportunity to try his best. But do I think he's going to be, great in his first year? No, I don't. I see Tennessee winning up to at most 9 games. At most, at least maybe 5 to 7, but I just don't think that McIntyre is going to be a standout player in his first year starting for the Volunteers. At the 14th spot, I have Jared Curtis, the 5-star recruit that was flipped from Georgia, is a Nashville homegrown talent, staying in Nashville to play for the Vanderbilt Commodores, but he has all the potential, really. He has all the potential to be great at some point, but a true freshman starting in this league who has a bunch of pressure, a ton of pressure, and he's just going to have to prove if he can handle that. Being a highly touted quarterback like he is, a highly ranked one, the 5-star, and then you have the flip, and his flip announcement was like leaked or something. So there's a lot of story behind Jared Curtis and a lot of opportunity for success, but a lot of pressure to make opportunities for failure. So he will be set in right now at that number 14 spot for me. Number 13, I have Aaron Philo. After leaving Georgia Tech for a bigger brand in Florida, he follows his offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner, to the Florida Gators. I just think that the familiarity he has under Faulkner will benefit the Gators, and I've mentioned a little bit before that when we play Florida, they're gonna be in a similar spot to us, navigating new coaches, new quarterback, new a whole lot, and I just don't think that they're gonna be in a bit as good of a spot as we are. I just don't know if they're gonna have everything figured out or very much figured out at this point. But I do think he'll be better than a few of these guys I'll think he'll be better than these guys that I've already named. But do I think he's close to a top 10 quarterback in this league right now? I really don't. But the potential is there, the upside's there. But just I'm not gonna be going on ESPN or turning on Sports Center, turning on College Game Day and expect to hear about Aaron Philo and the Florida Gators. I'm just not going to expect that. Number 12, I have Austin Simmons. Simmons coming off that ankle injury. He got that ankle injury in week 2, was benched for Trinidad Chambliss due to that injury, and was never really able to come back and take his job back. He wasn't really given that opportunity because of how good Trinidad Chambliss was and the drama that was with him during the college football playoff, the emotion, and just it was Trinidad Chambliss was playing some great football. All credit to him. And so Austin Simmons transfers to Missouri to, try to reestablish himself, revive his career right now under Eli Drinkwitz. And it's just a fresh start, a good opportunity. There's not a whole lot to speak about when it comes to what to expect because you don't know what he's going to look like under this Eli Drinkwitz offense. But I do think that he has every opportunity in the world to come back. Do I think he could be a top 10 quarterback in this league? Yeah, for sure. You just have to see what it's going to be like with, whole new everything. So just look. If you're going to be paying attention to any new quarterback at a new place this season, Austin Simmons on the Missouri Tiger football team has a lot of opportunity to be good. Number 11, this could be a little bit, I guess, controversial for some people. Some people think this quarterback is going to be great. I don't believe he's going to be top 10, but Keelan Russell for the Alabama Crimson Tide, he was the number 2 quarterback in the 2025 class, and he has a lot of opportunity, a lot of promise in Tuscaloosa. His game has a lot of potential, and he's 6'3", has a great build, has everything, all the intangibles that you want in a young up-and-coming quarterback. But here comes the things that you can't measure on a field before actually getting to Tuscaloosa. A historically good program, historically good college football team with a coach that is kind of on the hot seat right now amid some Alabama fans, and for some people he's still great. There's some questions to be asked with Keelan Russell and the Alabama football team. However, will he be able to take that pressure, the pressure of playing for a top brand in college football? Can he do it? I think he could, but I really don't think he'll be doing it in his first year. I don't think he'll be close to. And to start off the top 10, I have Mississippi State's Kamario Taylor. Now, Taylor, he showed some flashes of his potential in his true freshman season. They kind of eased him into those last couple games of the season. Showcased a great running ability, good passing ability. Has, you can kind of equivalent him to someone like Byron Brown. Not saying he's as good. He's not at all. However, it's kind of like, here on the same spectrum, that kind of pure runner who can throw as well, kind of quarterback who has that dual threat ability. But he's also in one of the as of late not the best situations to be in the SEC and Mississippi State. Not at all the worst, but his future in this league is going to be determined by just how far can the Bulldogs develop him, develop his skill, his athleticism, develop him as a player. How far are they going to be able to take that? I think he could definitely be good. I think he'll be a top 10 quarterback in this league. Mississippi State as a whole, I don't think is going to be a top 10 team in this SEC, but this Kamario Taylor has a good opportunity, a good, field in front of him. Number 9, I have Kenny Minchey for the Kentucky Wildcats. He was flipped from Nebraska. He was originally going to go to Nebraska to fill that Dylan Raiola spot. However, in his past season, he almost took the starting job in Notre Dame from C.J. Carr, a Heisman favorite right now. So there's some potential there, clearly. And it will be a great story, a fun story to follow throughout this season. Now there's, Kenny Minchie he has the opportunity. Like a lot of the quarterbacks in this league are going to be based off opportunity this year. Like I have named how many of the quarterbacks are under new situations. KJ Jackson, George McIntyre, Jared Curtis, Aaron Philo, Austin Sims. Every quarterback from right now, except for Kamario Taylor, there's going to be some sort of newness to it, and Kenny Minchie is no exception. So do I think he has that opportunity to be good? Yeah, for sure. But do I think the Kentucky Wildcats are going to be a top 10 team in this league? No. But do I think he has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback in this league? Absolutely. Yes, I do. And now you get to your heavy hitters. Number 8, I have Marcel Reed. And, throughout this season, you've had games where, he's been great. He'll give you 300 all-purpose yards and 4 touchdowns. He has a good ability to run. He can pass. He's loose with the ball. But he could also give you, 120 all-purpose yards and 2 interceptions with 1 touchdown. He's on the bad side of versatile. When I say that any game he could go off, any game he could also stink it up. So really this season is going to be looking for, more development under Mike Elko, who I think is a top 5 coach easily in this conference. I think he's going to be just another year of trying to develop and prove that he can establish himself within the rising standard of the Aggies. Texas A&M has constantly started to get better. Top 10 rankings, like top 15, top 10 rankings. I believe they were top 5 at one point this past season. And really, it's going to come down to, can he continue to improve and kind of shake off some of the rust that he has in some of these games and establish some consistency. Number 7, I have John Mateer. John Mateer last year had a great start to his season before having a thumb injury that required surgery. This season, it'll have to be good. It'll have to be good for him to prove he deserves the hype that's been given. Sorry, I can't talk today. He's had a lot of hype. He was in Heisman talks at the start of the season last year, and then by week 4 or week 5, he was just kind of out of them. He had his spot in the limelight. Like, hey, he's this great pocket passer, and then he can come on the run if he needs to. Whereas he just kind of dropped out of the limelight entirely due to this injury. So this season for the Oklahoma Sooners and for John Mateer is going to have to be a good one. It has to be good, has to be productive if he wants to. I'm not saying he will be he'll have to transfer, but I'm saying to keep his name in good graces right now. I just think that John Mateer has to come back better than ever and have a great season in this coming season. And the number 6 to round out before the top 5 is Lenore Sellers. He has a high ceiling. There's no doubt he has a high ceiling. He's shown off his ability in spurts. However, he has yet to hit that ceiling consistently, and it's not entirely his fault. South Carolina's had multiple different coordinators, and he's had a lot of changes go on, so he hasn't really been able to, take a moment to develop, because every now and then he has to change what he's doing under a new coordinator. Whereas now with Kendall Browse, has a great opportunity in front of him to develop into, he doesn't really have to develop, he just has to reach that peak again and hold himself there, prove to himself, prove to everybody that he's actually the quarterback he says he is and has shown that he can be. So Lenore Sellers rounds out that first first 10 or first 11 in the SEC. And going into the top 5, all of these are quarterbacks that have, in some way, shape, or form, can be top 3, could be number 1. And all of these guys have proven that they deserve to be here, I think, and have good reasons why. So I'm just going to start off number 5 as LSU's Sam Leavitt. In 2024, he led the Arizona State. Actually, I don't know the mascot. They led Arizona State to the college football playoff and to a Big 12 championship. However, a lot of that was due to Cam Skattebo. A lot of that was due to Cam Skattebo and the fact that, Cam, he received some Heisman votes. Cam has had a successful already in the NFL, besides some injuries, has shown that he deserved to kind of carry the Arizona State Sun Devils. And there's a lot of proof that it was a lot due to Cam Skattebo. However, Sam Leavitt proved that he also was a huge reason why Arizona State stayed good for a year after Cam Skattebo left. Sam Leavitt was still there, showed that, hey, it's not just a one-man show here. I'm good too, and he did that. However, I think he's great. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in this conference. But do I think he's going to be, top 3, top 4? He's gonna have to prove it. Number 4, I have Auburn's Byron Brown. The rushing ability is there. The passing ability is there. The intangibles are there. And everything that you want in a dual threat quarterback is there with Byron Brown. Is there. You've seen it. He has the opportunity to win the Heisman. He's a dark horse for the Heisman. And I truly believe that he is a top 4 and even could cement himself as a top 3 quarterback in this conference. However, the guys in front of him have established dominance in the SEC. Byron Brown coming with Alex Golesh from the USF Bulls. So he's going to have to prove it. But I think off of the intangibles that are there, off the things that you have already seen and that he can do, there a lot of people that commented about his throwing form in that one video. Well, I mean, you can't deny stats. Numbers don't lie in the quarterback that he's been, the quarterback that he has been, and that I think he can be. And then number 3, to start off the top 3 is Trinidad Chambliss for the Ole Miss Rebels. He received a sixth or 7th year of eligibility, and coming off of a college football playoff that saw him just light it up, beat Georgia in a thriller, almost made it to the national championship game, was very close, led that drive down the field, but just wasn't able to, finish it. Chambliss has a lot of promise, a lot of ability, but now it's going to be under Pete Golding. Was that success due to Lane's players playing well right after Lane had left? We'll have to see. But I do think, just based off of skill alone, based off of what we've seen him do and the experience, the obvious experience that is there for Trinidad Chambliss, he's going to be a top 3 quarterback in this SEC and by far a top 5. But the question is, what is he going to look like under the new head coach? We'll have to see. The number 2, kind of argued with myself with this for a little bit, but I have faith in I think that Gunnar Stockton is the number 2 quarterback in the SEC. Now, the funny thing about Gunnar Stockton is that I think that he is the only quarterback right now that is in the league currently with an SEC championship. He is the only quarterback on this list that is in the SEC right now, or at least on this list, that has won something. like a conference, on a conference level, has won an SEC championship. He's proven what he can do. He's a second-year starter right now, and the offense that's in front of Georgia is national championship level, is level for the Georgia Bulldogs to go back to the national championship game and win. But I mean, there's not a whole lot of downside with Gunnar Stockton. I just think that there's someone that's better than him, but Gunnar Stockton has the ability, the potential, the just all-around great. He's just a great quarterback. There's nothing else you can really say besides that Gunnar Stockton deserves to be where he is and deserves to be talked about how he is. And so, number one, this has been controversial because of how much drama there was with him. But Arch Manning is my number one quarterback in the SEC this season. I believe that he has shown that through the drama, through the stress and pressure, he can thrive. Texas it kind of fell off from before this past season, but I just think that building with Cam Coleman, having that number one receiver in Cam Coleman instead of having to rely on someone like Isaiah Bond or other receivers, I just think that Arch Manning is going to have a much more successful season. He has the weapons necessary, and Coach Sark obviously is doing a great job in Austin, but it's going to come down to, can he prove that this skill is not just skill, it's not just talent? Can he put it all together with hard work? And I think he will. And so that is my SEC quarterback power rankings. We'll go back through it real quick. KJ Jackson at 16, George McIntyre, Jared Curtis, Aaron Philo, 12, Austin Simmons, Keelan Russell, Kamario Taylor, Kenny Minchie, Marcel Reed, John Mateer, Lenore Sellers, Sam Levitt, Byron Brown, Trinidad Chambliss, Gunnar Stockton, and Arch Manning. And that will wrap it up for this episode 2 of Talkin Tigers with Auburn TFC. I have them on the screen right now. You can follow me on X at Auburn Tigers TFC. Same for YouTube. And you're watching this on Twitch. And I'll be posting this VOD to the YouTube channel. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your Sunday. And War Damn TFC.